They had me wear a crown that read, King of Letdowns. On my 50th birthday, best Reddit stories. Greetings. I am Richard. I was probably 50 years old when this whole thing started. Just in case you were wondering how someone like myself could just up and leave their family without a word, know that it wasn't a dramatic event. The boil was gradual. They say that a frog will jump out of a pot of boiling water, but that if the water is heated gently, the frog will stay in the water until it cooked. For years, that was me, simmering in the pot. Honestly, decades. And the goalkeeper? Before someone presented me with a crown reading, King of Letdowns, in front of my loved ones, I had no idea the water was boiling. Or imagined that I adored. Please allow me to rewind. For the past 27 years, Marlene has been my wife. We first crossed paths in college. I was the quiet, certain one who could fix your computer and cook you the ideal steak, and she was the outspoken, self-assured one. After finishing school, we waited a few years before having Olivia. And I'm not going to lie, she became my center of gravity. No parent is perfect, but at least I was there for my kids. All recitals. During each flu season. Commencing on the first day of college. I was obligated to work a stable IT job that I hated just to keep the lights on. Marlene was a homebody who dabbled in selling essential oils and eventually managed a Facebook group for women's empowerment, although the content was primarily negative sex talk and offensive Bible verses. We owned a suburban house, 2 cars, and a dog named Max. From the outside, it appeared like we were one of those families in those stock photos. Things peeled away on the inside, though. Beginnings were modest. Like my voice wasn't important, Marlene would interrupt me all the time. Initially, I dismissed it. What can I say? That's simply her nature. The excavations followed. She would make fun of me and say things like, "Must be nice to rest when you've done the bare minimum all day." If I slept after work. "You had one job," she would mutter if I neglected to get milk. With that perpetually half-joking tone. The kind that, whenever you felt yourself getting angry, made you feel like you were overreacting. At family gatherings, my recommendations would go unheard until someone else yelled them out, and Olivia would frequently roll her eyes when I attempted to offer her advice. By no means was I a victim. I merely served as a placeholder. Someone who exists in the backdrop of my own life. So, I wasn't expecting much for my 50th birthday. Perhaps a meal. A peaceful cake. If only for one night, I could feel noticed. The alternative was a surprise party that they hosted at our place. The book club of Marlene, Olivia's pals, and even my younger brother Jeff, who would only show up if there was free alcohol, were all there. I was told to make some ribs and burgers, and there were streamers, balloons, and a "Happy 5-0" banner. On my birthday, no one even bothered to ask if I wanted to cook, but I still grinned since that's my job. About halfway through, the crown was removed. Olivia came up with the idea. Embossed in thick Sharpa letters that read, "King of Letdowns," was a paper Burger King crown that glistened in red and gold. Everyone let out a fit of giggles. It was the funniest joke Marlene had ever heard, so she clapped like a boss. Jeff leaned over and said, "Dude, that's harsh, but it's kind of true, isn't it?" Additionally, I couldn't help but giggle. I chuckled short and stiffly. The kind you let out when you're feeling queasy but trying to keep it together. The group photos were taken by me after I had grilled the meal. "Grab one of us, Dad," Olivia cursed. And yet another. "See to it that everyone is there." That night, not a single shot ever included me. Absolutely none. Someone shouted, "Make a wish, Rick!" as the cake was being sliced. The need for an individuality. Much more laughing. Still, I cracked another smile as my fist squeezed around the blade. My smile was constant. I was still cleaning up later that night, after everyone had gone. On the couch, with a drink in one hand, Marlene was glancing through her phone. "Hey, did you truly find the crown amusing?" I inquired. At least she glanced up. "I was only making a joke," he said. "Take it easy. You've been particularly sensitive recently." I remember sitting in the dark, staring at a traveling website's blinking cursor, after she went to bed that night. I had no idea what direction to go in. My intention was only to go. I reserved a plane ticket to a tiny Oregon town for only one way. On a business trip, I went there once, and I remembered it being peaceful, green, and having the tastiest peach cobbler ever at a little restaurant. Just some clothes, a laptop, a couple books, and some Macs were in my luggage. Indeed, I did take the dog. Until I departed, nobody paid any attention. A note was left. No big deal. Simply said I must leave. I can't remember a time when I was truly content. Make sure you all take it easy. Hey there, Richard. Setting it on the kitchen counter, I used my house key to secure it. It took Olivia's post 2 weeks before it appeared on Facebook. With the text reading, "If anyone sees my dad, please tell him we're sorry." We were able to get a rare snapshot of her at her high school graduation. He was so easy to take for granted that we didn't even know it. All we want is for him to return home. There was a lot of shock and pity in the comments. People remarking on how quiet he was all the time or how you can never truly understand another person's struggles. "Man, I miss my big bro. I hope you're okay out there," Jeff added. It was the same guy who insulted me 3 times while we were at the party. It went unanswered. It is not so just yet. Nobody was prepared for it. You see, what they failed to realize was that my departure was just the beginning. We were only at the beginning. Something they hadn't anticipated was about to begin. It wasn't like I was vanishing. Something was in the works. Something clicked for me inside that tiny Oregon cafe as I ate peach cobbler and watched the rain fall out the window. Remember all those years when you were laughed at, ignored, and neglected? They couldn't continue ignoring consequences indefinitely. I began to write as a result. Authentic writing, not only journaling. All that I had accomplished. Their entire conversation. To begin, I made a list. Without fail, I had to stoop over backwards for those people. Cleared Jeff's debt. Assisted Marlene's mom with checking into a care facility. Olivia's automobile loan was co-signed. With all the giving up. Following that, the crown. Yummy cake. The ones in which I did not participate. The joke that I was expected to find humorous. However, what's even better? It was in my possession. Authentic receipts. Emails. Income tax returns. Images taken from the screen. What was more, I had a perfect plan for them. Later on, though, as soon as I felt like I could finally breathe, something happened that turned everything upside down once more. Unexpected development. Things began to spiral out of control at that point. I only recently began to find a routine, 2 weeks into my self-imposed seclusion. Get up early. Take your time navigating the misty streets. Make coffee that doesn't have that burned regret flavor. Get down on paper. Eat. Take a read. Get some rest. Go over it again. My heart wasn't burdened by intangible obstacles for the first time in what seemed like decades. Keeping the peace wasn't the only reason I was smiling. As for me, I remained silent. However, there was tranquil silence. Not that type that stifles. Ashbrook, the town where I had landed, was so small that it was easy to overlook it. A petrol station that sold bait, and a diner named Rosie's where the servers called everyone Han were on one main street. Oh, and the jukebox had to play songs that were released before 1985. I leased a small, furnished studio atop a historic store. Darrell, the landlord, was a retired mechanic who was much like the father figure I had always envisioned. Kind but direct. I paid the first 3 months in cash, and he didn't even inquire whether I needed a place urgently. It ought to have sufficed. Just taking it easy, getting well, and finding myself. But then the email came. Father was the subject of the urgent message. Olivia was the source. It took me hours of staring at it before I finally clicked it. As my heart raced and my fingers slid over the trackpad, I could feel Max's tail thumping metronome-like beside me. "Please don't delete this," was the first line that appeared when I opened it at last. She claimed that first, she was confused. That the gathering had merely seemed like harmless entertainment, a small boost to lift spirits. It is her. I was unprepared for the pain the crown would cause. That she believed I could handle jokes with ease. Gratitude was her expression. She claimed to have been calling, messaging, and posting for what seemed like the nth time. However, she had never before refrained from offering an explanation. "We allowed you to become invisible, even though you were always the glue that held us together," the email said in the end. "My apologies, Dad. You are missed." It went unanswered. I felt too much, not because I didn't feel anything at all. I chose to simply save the email and return to my writing. The plot for retaliation had already been set in action at that time. By vengeance, I do not mean petty. Cutting tires and depleting joint finances are not acceptable. I am referring to clear, indisputable outcomes. I wish they could comprehend the material and emotional devastation they had endured. Financially. From a social perspective. Now that I was going to let them experience what it was like when I stopped, I had built more of their lives than they knew. Dale, our financial advisor, was the first person I contacted. We had been his colleagues for many years. I gently informed him that I would like to withdraw my name from any joint accounts and shift my assets to a separate portfolio that is owned solely by me. He halted. "My name is Richard." "Is that so?" "It's a significant step." "Sure, no problem." "Is Marlene aware of this?" "She will, means it really." Second thing I did was call the mortgage lender. Although our names were on the deed to the house, I had been the only one making payments for the past 15 years. I could prove it using the bank records. I disabled the automatic withdrawals. The utilities are no different. It was obvious to me that Marlene had no idea how to access the payment sites. They were all put up and managed by me. Since 2007, she had failed to pay any bills whatsoever. For 3 days, I let it sit. By the time my phone turned back on the 4th, I had received 3 voicemails and 20 missed calls from her number. They were ignored by me. I disabled the phone number. Facebook messages followed. Jeff speaks first. "This is important, buddy. We need to have a conversation. It's all coming apart. Dial my number." First, from her. "Tell me what you're up to. Laughing at this is now a chore. Return to your humble abode. We must resolve this matter." A public post, at long last. The queen of nebulous drama, Marlene posted. When a loved one opts to ignore their family instead of acting responsibly, it reflects poorly on them rather than you. The MLM team and her church mates immediately started offering consoling remarks. The remarks that followed, though, really grabbed my attention. "Come once?" This was from individuals whose names I scarcely could recall. Someone I worked with in the past. I always felt that Rich was deserving of more. Assume he is acting in his own self-interest. Still another. I was there when that birthday bash unfolded. That wasn't good. Within hours, Marlene removed the post. Yet the true breakdown didn't start until then. The one who had grown to depend on me to save him from every financial jam, from car loans to credit card debt, is Jeff. Unexpectedly had his loan application rejected for repairs. Surprisingly, co-signers do have an impact. Until they weren't, payments for Olivia's auto loan were still being deducted from the joint account. The next thing she knew, her payment bounced. I wasn't trying to be mean. I simply let go of the burden that nobody noticed. 2 weeks subsequent to the celebration marked the turning point. A certified letter was sent from our previous address to my Ashbrook studio. A lawyer representing Marlene sent it. She wasn't merely requesting a divorce, though. She wanted alimony, claimed emotional abandonment, and wanted the bulk of our assets because she had been our stay-at-home mom. And I couldn't help but laugh. To be more precise, I let out a belly laugh. Why? Because I had information that she lacked. I'd been keeping track of everything for a long time. Not intentionally, but simply routinely. Fill out each tax form. With each pass. With each tuition bill. Regardless of the number of times I rewired the laundry room or repaired her mother's leaking roof. My own lawyer was retained. Arthur was a calm, systematic man who preferred facts to drama. I gave him a USB drive and a hefty folder full of paperwork when we first met. Whistling was his sound. Wow, that's detailed. I revealed that I'm an IT guy. The things are backed up by me. Arthur beamed. We took our time constructing the case. I want to reveal the truth, not ruin her. That despite being ridiculed, downgraded, and ignored, I had been the only breadwinner, the emotional support system, and the engine that kept the whole operation going. However, a tiny part of me held out hope for a different outcome even while we were getting ready. An email. Authentic remorse. Something that demonstrated her comprehension of not only my absence but also the reasons behind it. Rather than that, Olivia called me. The call ended up in my voicemail. She sounded nervous. Dad, the situation is becoming worse by the minute. My mom has been going ballistic. It seems she needs your signature in order to sell the residence. They quarrel all the time, and Jeff is staying with us. Even now, I don't feel secure. She then murmured, as if she didn't want anyone to hear. I believe I'm beginning to comprehend why you left. I beg you, please call me. There I sat, my eyes fixed on the phone. Like he was expecting a signal, Max raised his head and met my gaze. It was at that very time. The juncture. For the first time, I felt like I was actually being asked to return. A realization was dawning on them. Because of that, the following move has to be made. Now is the moment to demonstrate. Someone will eventually push back if you push them too far. I listened to that voicemail multiple times, and every phrase had a unique effect on me. Olivia's voice lacked the cool, dismissive tone that I had grown accustomed to hearing when she referred to me as extra, or ordered me to be less traditional. This time, though, it was gentle. Raw. As if she were at last removing the coverings. The plan remained unchanged, though. I was aware of Marlene's personality type, you see. It wasn't like her to shout at anthropomorphic objects. She was much worse. The delicate artist. The victim in the workplace. People began to question their own credibility because of her extraordinary talent for spinning tales. She was gaslighting you the whole time, and you didn't even know it until you were completely responsible for whatever she did. Leaving a marriage was not something I had done lightly. A psychological labyrinth had slipped me. And now I'm holding the beams up while she watches her world fall apart? It lacked the fulfilling elements typically seen in revenge films. I found it illuminating. Olivia, however, was unique. It was my sincere hope that she was. The voicemail, too? It was the initial clue. I wasn't prepared to give her a call again. Unfortunately, I did. anything I hadn't accomplished since my departure. A response was sent. Message only. Your message was heard. Well, I'm doing fine. I'm not prepared to return just yet. Listen, though. Hours pass with no answer. Then I'm grateful. It is helpful to know that. Easy peasy. However, a necessary part. At the same time, Marlene's side of the story was unraveling at a faster rate than anybody else's. Predicted. Arthur, the lawyer, took the next step when he formally moved to oppose the financial claims and the separation petition. We enclosed duplicates of my most recent pay stubs. 20 years, a detailed accounting of all costs that I personally paid for, and, most excitingly, a record, year after year, of the funds that I pumped into Jeff's bottomless pit of debt. Marlene said that I was emotionally distant for a long time. Arthur retaliated by showing me pictures from Olivia's vacation, birthday, and therapy sessions following our high school separation, as well as text messages and invoices from her therapy. It was as if he had a shaky basis, her story crumbling one piece of evidence after another. It wasn't my goal to gain custody. No minor was concerned. I desired not the house. I had zero interest in exacting monetary vengeance. The truth should be obvious. That's all I wanted. To me, it was only fair that she face the justice system and explain why. She believed a guy should be crowned a failure if he did everything for his family. The word began to circulate among the wider family. A cousin of mine, Teresa, contacted me. It has always seemed to me that Marlene was not intense. Nothing was spoken by any of us. I received private Facebook messages from two of Olivia's former teachers. At parent-teacher conferences, you were a constant. All of them were there. Some children lack that. Olivia felt fortunate. Funny how things look in retrospect. I received an email from Marlene herself one morning, approximately 6 weeks subsequent to the party. Outside of legal representation. She alone. There was no subject line. I miss you, was the main message in the email. You might have told me how you really felt, and I still don't get it. Those words. That one phrase. It triggered an emotional reaction in me. I informed her, after all. In an infinite number of ways. With drowsy expressions and heavy breaths. Even though she was warm at home, she stood in the rain with a flat tire. Even though Olivia was sick and Marlene was too exhausted to go grocery shopping late at night. Because she needed money for her Vital Oil store, I had to give up on my dream of being an entrepreneur. That being said, I refrained from raising my voice. Not once have I made any accusations. I was always calm. Therefore, I said nothing at all to her. The email went unanswered by me. Arthur has already received it. It hasn't clicked with her yet. It was me who authored it. Then, right when I thought things couldn't be any more complicated, Olivia appeared. As usual, it was raining on Saturday morning, and I had brought a box of biscuits from the restaurant for Max. In front of the antique store, I noticed the rental automobile parked in an unusual way. I informed her that she couldn't attend a concert on a school night when I seen her leaning against the hood with her hoodie up and her arms crossed, the same attitude she used when she was a teenager. I came to a complete halt. Then she raised her head and glanced up. Excuse me? Excuse me? Max trotted over to her after letting out a gentle bark. Scratching his head, she knelt down. He has a memory of me. His memory is superior to the average person's. Her body tensed up as she grimaced. A small amount. Next, she rose to her feet. She said, I didn't tell Mom I was coming. Oops. I merely did it. Your presence was essential. I was at a loss for words. I simply signaled for her to accompany me to the studio. For a while, we remained silent. She accepted my offer of black, sugar-free coffee without hesitation. It gave me a small smile. "I didn't get it before," she finally said. "Not at all. I assumed you were merely exaggerating, going out in that manner." But now she poured herself a cup of coffee. "Your mother now weeps daily, but it's not because she longs for your presence. As a result of the increasing amount of credit card bills. For the simple reason that Jeff keeps pouring himself drinks in the basement. Just because she has no idea how to turn the thermostat back to its original setting and the home is freezing." She was staring at me. "She longs for the advantages you provide. Other than you." I remained silent. Everything was okay with me. I simply listened to her. "And I felt like I was beginning to transform into her," she said. "Joking with you. Ignoring all of it. Until you suddenly disappeared, I failed to appreciate how much I relied on you." She took stock of the cramped quarters, which included a stack of books on the desk, Max curled up on the rug, and an unfinished jigsaw puzzle resting on the coffee table. She claimed it wasn't much. However, it has a homelier vibe than our previous residence. I felt overwhelmed and confused of how to react, so I leaned back with my arms crossed. I refrained from trying to reassure her. It is not so just yet. I wanted her to feel that pain because I had experienced it for a long time. However, her next question caught me off guard. "Will you be returning?" I peered out the window as the rain softly pattered against the pane. "Breathe in slowly." Taking a deep exhale. "For the record, I stated that I am unsure. I still have a ways to go." She waved her hand. Nods were all she did. Afterwards, they got to their feet. At the door, she halted before she departed. "If I am lucky enough to earn the chance, I would love to be a part of your life again." Afterwards, she departed. I remained there for quite some time. It was first thing in the morning when I contacted Arthur. I said it was time. It's time to go to court. After that, what came up? It altered the course of history. Not long after that, when I still believed in the significance of my actions, I stood outside the courthouse in the same respectable suit that I had worn to Olivia's graduation. My hands felt parched. I am holding my breath. My expectation that I would be anxious was completely unfounded. Yeah, that's it. I wasn't the type of guy who took offense at being insulted and made light of it. After 3 decades of neglect, I had transformed it into something more powerful and formidable. Getting even wasn't the point anymore. Finding my voice again was the main focus. Not many people were in the courtroom. A court clerk who is sound asleep, a couple of bored lawyers, and Marlene across the aisle. Wearing a black dress and false tears, she resembled a widow from a Hallmark movie. In her eyes, she saw a combination of disdain and despair, as if she couldn't determine if I was the monster responsible for her life's demise or a tool that she had misplaced and now needed all over again. Her attorney took the lead when the court invited us to speak. The artist depicted a man who, leaving behind an emotionally scarred kid, a woman who had given up her profession to care for the family, and his family without warning. Even Marlene wiped her gaze at that part. I remained expressionless. Next, Arthur got to his feet. He lacked ostentation. Simply planned. The court was led by him through the chronology. The duration of the financial assistance. Recorded in thorough spreadsheets. Everything from text messages to images to activities that I had planned and funded for my family. I assumed the debt. In order to hide Jeff's mess. Things like food, the car loan, tuition, and expenses. Crowned with disappointment, he displayed it to the court. Certainly, we presented it as proof, and it was read. Read out loud the correspondence that ensued. Then he uttered the immovable line. Throughout the board. He didn't leave his loved ones behind, my customer. All he did was leave a concert where he was never the center of attention. Instead, she was the punchline. Marlene attempted to interject with a comment regarding context and a light-hearted joke, but the judge abruptly ended her. The court ultimately found in my favor. The house would be sold and the proceeds would be divided 70/30ths. 35%, with a clear bias in my favor because of my proven financial contribution. The judge rejected Marlene's alimony claim because she had failed to seek work despite having a healthy ability to move freely. There was no proof of emotional abandonment to back up her accusations, the court decided, as opposed to personal accounts. The $18,000 that I had paid off for Jeff's obligations was ordered to be repaid. It was never about that money, though. I knew it would never materialize. For the record, I wanted to hear someone acknowledge, in writing, that my contribution was meaningful. Marlene came racing up to me in the hallway after we finished listening. She hissed and her voice quivered, expressing her disapproval. "You gave me a monster's face." After a long absence, I finally met her gaze. My assistance was unnecessary for that. After she flinched as if I had smacked her, she walked away. After waiting a week, I finally formalized the process of removing my name from the property record. I sent Olivia the funds to pay off her automobile, but I made it clear that she had to be responsible for her own payments from now on. She took it without question. We maintained contact. Not on a daily or weekly basis, at least. She began calling, though, and not for any specific reason. She simply wanted to chat, so that she may fill me in on her day, her work, and her ideas. She even sought guidance once. I wanted to cry when I read that one. Ashbrook was my home. Every morning, I still walk Max, drink dinner coffee, and read novels that I never had the time for. At a repair shop, I work as an apprentice, fixing various obsolete electronics. The pay isn't great, but it's adequate. Even more crucially, I won't have to pay for it. Olivia paid another visit one evening. Sitting on my porch with her feet dangling, she brought peach cobbler from Rosie's. She murmured, "You're not who I thought you were." So went her words. I am more. It wasn't until you stopped letting us treat you like a doormat that I noticed. My response was a nod. Leaving wasn't because I was furious. I had just finished. According to her, I'm relieved that you were there since it means we can finally meet. Sunlight fell behind the hills, enveloping the street below in lengthy shadows. Are you seriously considering relocating? Her question. While shaking my head, I grinned. Look, I've already returned home. I realized at last that home isn't where other people think you should be. There you may truly express who you are. And I was, at long last, after 50 long years.